Welcome to Technically You. We love to take these complex technology topics, and try to make them easy to understand.
Exactly.
So today we are going to be diving into EoHFC,
Okay.
which I know is kind of a mouthful, but I promise it's really interesting.
I'm sure it is.
It's something that a lot of people probably use every day without even realizing it.
Yeah, it powers a lot of the internet that people are using in their homes right now.
Okay, so let's start with the basics.
Sure.
EoHFC stands for Ethernet over Hybrid Fiber Coaxial.
Right.
So break that down for us. What's so hybrid about it?
Well, you have fiber optic cables, right, which are those really high bandwidth connections for long distances. And then you have coaxial cables, which are more of the traditional cable TV lines that go to people's houses.
Okay, so it's using both of them.
Yeah, it's a hybrid of the two.
That makes sense. But how do you get the internet protocols, the language of the internet, to travel over coaxial cables? They seem very different things.
That's true. So there's this process called modulation, which basically translates the electrical signals from Ethernet into a format that can travel over coaxial.
Oh, so it's kind of like a translator.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay. And then there are also these things called DOCSIS protocols, right?
Yes, DOCSIS is data over cable service interface specification.
Wow, that's a mouthful.
But basically, it's a set of rules that ensure that data can be transmitted efficiently and reliably over those HFC networks.
Okay, so those are really important to make sure everything runs smoothly.
Exactly.
So we've got these fiber optic cables sending data over long distances, and then they connect to those coaxial cables to reach individual homes. And the DOCSIS protocols are making sure everything is flowing correctly.
Right.
I'm starting to see how this all fits together.
Yeah. And it's actually a really clever way to deliver high-speed internet because it leverages existing infrastructure.
Right, those coaxial cables are already in so many neighborhoods because of cable TV.
Exactly. So it's much more cost-effective to use those existing lines than to try to lay brand new fiber optic cables everywhere.
That makes a lot of sense, especially when you think about trying to reach rural areas or places where it might be really expensive to lay new cables.
Right. EoHFC can bring high-speed internet to places that might not otherwise have it.
Okay, so I'm getting why EoHFC is a big deal, especially in terms of accessibility and cost effectiveness. But with all the hype around fiber optics, is EoHFC even relevant anymore? I mean, isn't fiber the future?
That's a good question, and it's one that a lot of people ask. While fiber is amazing and offers incredible speeds, it's also really expensive to roll out, and it's just not practical in a lot of areas. So,
Yeah, I can imagine trying to lay fiber optic cables in every single neighborhood would be a massive undertaking.
yeah, it would be incredibly time-consuming and expensive.
So EoHFC is filling a really important gap.
Exactly. It's bringing high-speed internet to people who might not otherwise have it, and it's doing it in a way that's affordable and practical.
And it's using technology that already exists, so it doesn't require this huge infrastructure overhaul.
Right.
Okay, so we've got EoHFC making high-speed internet more accessible and affordable, but how does it stack up against other internet technologies like 5G wireless? I mean, everyone's talking about wireless being the future, right?
Yeah, 5G is definitely generating a lot of buzz, and it has a lot of potential, especially for mobile connectivity. But when it comes to home internet service, 5G faces some challenges that EoHFC doesn't have to deal with.
Like what?
Well, with 5G, you're relying on wireless signals, and those can be affected by things like distance from the cell tower, interference from other devices or buildings, and even weather.
Okay, so reliability could be an issue.
Yeah, and 5G networks can also get congested if a lot of people in the same area are trying to use the internet at the same time.
Right, so if you're trying to stream a movie or work and everyone else in your neighborhood is also online, you might experience slower speeds.
Exactly. With EoHFC, you have a dedicated connection that isn't shared with your neighbors, so you're less likely to experience those kinds of slowdowns.
So it's like having your own lane on the information superhighway.
That's a great way to put it. And that dedicated connection can make a big difference in terms of reliability and
Consistency, especially if you're relying on your internet for work or school or anything that requires a stable connection.
exactly. And let's not forget about DSL, the technology that used to be the standard for home internet.
Oh, yeah, DSL. I had a DSL connection about 20 years ago.
In areas where EoHFC is available, DSL just can't compete in terms of speed or reliability.
Wow. So it sounds like EoHFC is really hitting that sweet spot between performance, affordability, and availability.
Yeah, it's a really compelling option for a lot of people.
I'm definitely intrigued. This has been really eye-opening so far.
Great, I've been glad to hear that.
I can't wait to dive even deeper into this topic after the break.
Welcome back to our discussion.
And we are picking up where we left off on our exploration of EoHFC.
Yes, we are.
And I gotta say, I'm really curious now about where this technology is headed. You know, we've talked about how it works, the benefits, and even how it stacks up against fiber and 5G.
Right, and that's a really important point to consider because the future of EoHFC is very much tied to how the internet itself is evolving.
So it's not just about being good enough for today, it has to keep up with the times.
Exactly. Technology never stands still, and EoHFC is no exception.
So how is EoHFC keeping pace with all the new demands, you know, like streaming 8K video or whatever crazy things are coming next?
Well, a lot of it comes down to continuous improvements in DOCSIS.
Right, DOCSIS, those protocols that manage data over the cable network.
Exactly. They're like the traffic signals, making sure everything flows smoothly.
So are these DOCSIS upgrades really making a noticeable difference for the average user? Like, what does it actually mean for me when I'm browsing the web or streaming a movie?
Okay, so imagine you're trying to download a huge video game or stream a live concert in 4K resolution with older versions of DOCSIS. That might have taken a while, and you might have experienced lag or buffering. But the latest versions, like DOCSIS 3.1 and the growing 4, are unlocking some serious speed potential.
So we're talking faster downloads, smoother streaming, less waiting around.
Exactly, and it's not just about raw speed. These DOCSIS upgrades are also significantly reducing latency.
Ah, latency. That's the delay between clicking something and seeing it happen.
Precisely, and lower latency means a more responsive internet experience, especially for things like online gaming or video conferencing, where every millisecond counts.
So it's like the difference between a conversation flowing smoothly or having those awkward pauses where you're not sure if the other person heard you.
Exactly. And as those demands on the internet keep growing, EoHFC is evolving to keep pace.
Okay, so faster speeds, lower latency. It sounds like EoHFC is keeping up with the times.
It is, and it's proven to be incredibly resilient and adaptable.
So it might not always be the absolute leading edge of internet technology, but it's finding that sweet spot between performance, affordability, and accessibility.
Right, and that's one of the key strengths of EoHFC. It's bringing high-speed internet to communities that might not have access to fiber optic networks due to cost or logistical challenges.
So it's playing a crucial role in bridging the digital divide, making sure everyone has access to the opportunities that come with being connected.
Exactly. It's about democratizing access to information and opportunities.
I like that idea a lot. So we've got EoHFC constantly evolving, pushing the boundaries of speed and latency and making the internet more accessible. But what about the companies that are actually providing these EoHFC services? How are they adapting to this rapidly changing landscape?
Well, the internet service providers, or ISPs, that offer EoHFC are facing both challenges and opportunities in this evolving market. On one hand, they need to invest in upgrading their infrastructure to keep pace with those latest DOCSIS standards, which can be a significant financial commitment.
Yeah, they can't just expect to offer those multi-gigabit speeds without putting in the work behind the scenes.
Exactly. They need to make sure their networks can handle the increased traffic and demand.
But it sounds like it's a smart business move for the ISPs in the long run.
It is if they want to stay competitive and attract customers who are looking for faster and more reliable internet.
And it's good news for the consumer too, right? Because it means we get better services.
Absolutely. It's a win-win situation.
Okay, so we've talked about how the ISPs are adapting, but what about the competition from other technologies like fiber optics and 5G wireless? How are those influencing the decisions that these ISPs are making?
It's definitely a complex landscape. Fiber optics is often seen as the ultimate goal, but the reality is that it's just not feasible or economically viable to deploy fiber everywhere. Think about the costs associated with digging trenches, laying cables, and connecting individual homes, especially in rural or suburban areas with lower population densities.
Yeah, it makes sense that fiber might not be practical in every situation.
Right, and that's where EoHFC continues to play a crucial role. It's able to leverage that existing coaxial cable infrastructure, which makes it much more cost-effective and logistically easier to bring high-speed internet to those underserved areas.
It's like EoHFC is filling the gap, providing a solution where other technologies might not be feasible.
Exactly, and that's why it's so important to understand the strengths and weaknesses of each approach and choose the best option for specific needs and circumstances.
It's not about one technology being inherently better than another. It's about finding the right fit for the situation.
Precisely. And that's why the internet landscape is becoming increasingly diverse. We're seeing a mix of technologies coexisting and complementing each other, each playing a specific role in meeting the ever-evolving demands of the digital world.
So it's not a winner-take-all scenario. There's room for multiple players on the internet field.
Exactly, and that's good news for consumers. It means more choices, more competition, and ultimately better services and value.
So we've got EoHFC holding its own against fiber optics, at least in certain areas. But what about those wireless challengers like 5G? How does EoHFC stack up against the promise of ubiquitous, high-speed connectivity without needing any cables?
That's where things get really interesting. 5G is undoubtedly a game changer, offering incredible speeds and the freedom to connect from virtually anywhere. But it also faces some inherent limitations that EoHFC doesn't have to worry about.
You mean things like signal interference, data caps, and the challenges of providing consistent coverage across vast geographical areas?
Exactly. While 5G is amazing for mobile devices and on-the-go connectivity, it's not always the most reliable or cost-effective solution for providing primary home internet service. As we mentioned earlier, factors like network congestion, building materials, distance from towers, and even weather conditions can impact 5G signal strength and reliability.
So again, it comes down to choosing the right tool for the job. 5G might be great for when you're on the move, but EoHFC could be a better choice for a stable home internet connection.
Exactly, and that's why it's important to have a good understanding of how these different technologies work and what their strengths and weaknesses are.
So we've gone from the technical nuts and bolts of EoHFC to this big picture view of the evolving internet landscape. But before we wrap up, I want to bring it back down to earth for a moment. What does all of this mean for the average internet user? How do these technological advancements and competitive dynamics actually impact our daily lives?
That's a great question, and it's one that we'll be exploring in depth when we return for the final part of our discussion into EoHFC. Get ready for some real-world insights and practical takeaways that you can use to make informed decisions about your internet choices.
Welcome back. I feel like we've really gone deep on EoHFC, from how it actually works to how it stacks up against the competition.
Yeah, it's been a good overview.
And now I'm kind of thinking about, what does all this mean for me as an internet user? If I'm shopping around for a new provider, what are the things I should be thinking about?
That's a great question and really starts with understanding your own internet needs and habits. Are you mostly browsing the web? checking email, streaming 4K movies, gaming online, or working from home.
So it depends on my internet needs.
Exactly. Different people have different needs. And EoHFC might be a great fit for some, but maybe not for others.
Okay, so let's say I'm a pretty heavy internet user. I stream a lot, I work from home. I need a really solid connection. Would EoHFC be enough for me, or should I be looking at fiber?
Well, fiber is definitely the gold standard when it comes to speed and latency, but it's also the most expensive and it's not available everywhere.
Right, we talked about that.
So if fiber is an option and it fits your budget, then go for it. But if not, EoHFC can still provide a really great internet experience, especially with those newer DOCSIS upgrades.
So those DOCSIS upgrades are really a game changer, huh?
They're making EoHFC more competitive than ever before.
Okay, so speed and latency, those are the big ones. But what about reliability? I mean, we talk about how 5G can be a little bit finicky sometimes. Is EoHFC more stable in that regard?
Generally speaking, EoHFC is known for its reliability. Because the signals are traveling over dedicated cables, you're less likely to experience those sudden drops in speed or those frustrating outages that you might get with wireless connections.
So if I'm working from home and I absolutely cannot have my internet go down in the middle of a meeting, EoHFC is probably a safer bet.
It's definitely something to consider, especially if reliability is a top priority for you.
Okay, so we've covered speed, latency, reliability, all really important factors. But here's the curveball. What about the future? I mean, technology is always changing. Should I worry about investing in EoHFC if something way better is just around the corner?
That's the million-dollar question, isn't it? And unfortunately, none of us has a crystal ball to predict the future, but based on what we've seen, EoHFC has proven to be very adaptable. And those DOCSIS upgrades are continuously pushing the boundaries of what this technology can do.
So it sounds like EoHFC is here to stay, at least for the foreseeable future.
Yeah, I think it's safe to say that EoHFC will continue to play a vital role in the internet landscape for many years to come.
That's reassuring to hear because sometimes it feels like technology is moving so fast that whatever you buy today is going to be obsolete tomorrow.
I know what you mean, but I think it's important to remember that the internet is all about evolution and growth. There will always be new technologies emerging, but the key is to stay informed and choose the technology that best meets your needs at the time.
That's great advice. I think a lot of people get caught up in the hype of the latest and greatest, but sometimes the tried and true solutions are still the best option.
Absolutely. And EoHFC is a perfect example of that. It's a mature technology that's constantly evolving and improving, and it's providing a valuable service to millions of people around the world.
I think we've definitely learned a lot about EoHFC in this podcast. It's gone from being this kind of mysterious acronym to something that now I actually understand and appreciate.
I'm glad to hear that, and I hope our listeners feel the same way.
And, even if you're not a tech expert, I think it's really empowering to understand how the things we use every day actually work.
I completely agree. The more we understand about the technologies that shape our world, the better equipped we are to make informed decisions.
Well said. So as we wrap up this podcast, what's the one big takeaway you want our listeners to remember about EoHFC?
I would say the most important thing to remember is that EoHFC is more than just some outdated technology trying to hang on. It's a vital part of the internet infrastructure. It's constantly evolving, and it's bringing high-speed internet to people all over the world.
That's a great way to put it. EoHFC is one of the unsung heroes of the internet, quietly connecting us all.
Exactly. It's a technology that deserves a lot more credit than it often gets.
And maybe this podcast has sparked a curiosity in some of our listeners to learn more about the tech that powers their lives.
That's what we hope for here at Technical U. We believe that knowledge is power, and understanding how things work gives us the ability to make informed choices and navigate this increasingly complex digital world.
So keep exploring, keep asking questions, and keep listening. Until next time, stay curious.
Thanks for joining us today.
We'll see you next time.